Hello everyone, I am Hriday Thakur. I am a research fellow with Pine Biotech. So this video is about my research topic on understanding and identification of biomarkers for prostate cancer. In this project, I particularly wanted to understand what biomarkers are present in the case of prostate cancer and how are they expressed in case of an aged male or males in particular. So let's go on with it. For the first step, we'll have to understand that most of my project includes something of that is called RNA sequencing. Now, sequencing, when we talk about RNA sequencing, we are actually saying that we are sequencing a complementary DNA because rather than the RNA basis, we are actually sequencing the DNA basis. When direct RNA sequencing is being developed and it is used as a principle, but it is not practically used. So RNA sequencing actually looks at the entire transcriptome of the genome, and it identifies the differences between the transcriptomes without any need for prior information or understanding. Now, what we have to understand is that most of my project uses RNA sequencing as the basis. So it is better to have an understanding of the process as a whole. RNA analysis also shows us the differences between the samples that can then be developed to get an idea about the biological basis of those genes. Now, when we talk about the process of RNA sequencing, in a nutshell, it can be summarized as that total RNA it is first cut into very small fragments or pieces, and then it is converted into complementary DNA through a process called as reverse transcription, and then it is arranged whether de novo or whether already using some pre-aligned sequencing. So the basic steps of RNA sequencing involves first the pre-processing of data, second aligning of the reads that were present and mapping them on a reference genome, and the third step is calculating the abundance of reads and that are aligned to the reference genome, and the fourth is the statistical and biological interpretation of the expression table that get generated after all the three steps. Talking about the first step, that is the pre-processing. The pre-processing step is that the sequencing adapters that are present, they needs to be cleaned from the reads, and the raw data, they needs to be converted into a format that can be efficiently used in subsequent algorithms that we'll be using in our studies. So that's why pre-processing is important. Now, the how we did the sequencing, we did using the T-Bioinfo platform. That was very helpful for us to pre-process the data, and the whole process that we did happened at the T-Bioinfo server that was provided by Pine Biotech. Now, there are five algorithms that can be used for pre-processing that are included in the T-Bioinfo platform only. The first one is the clean primer. The second is array to FASTA. Then we can also use the PCR clean. We also have the ability to use the Trimomatic and the GTF adjust. Trimomatic is the one algo that we used for our study. The second step, the second step is mapping onto a reference genome. Now, the transcripts that are created, the raw transcripts that are created, they are aligned to a genome sequence that is same or similar to the species and chosen as a reference genome. Now, genome context can be used when the whole genome is not available, but it is used only when we are doing our research. Now, this process will help us help us quantify the reads associated with the express genes that are present. Now, the algorithms that are present at T-Bioinfo server that helped us doing this were Top Hat 2, HeightSat, and Bowtie. So these all can be used to reference, to map on a reference genome. And couplings is also another algorithm that uses the genome alignment map and junction reads that are identified by uh, Top Hat and to assemble the transcripts. So then we come to the next step, that is the calculation of abundance of reads. Now, calculation of abundance can be done by an algorithm that is called RSIM, that is RNA sequence by expectation maximization. The other methods of quantification can also be used, that are HTSEC and or Sailfish. All of these are available in the T-Bioinfo platform. Now, the counts of expressions can be raw counts that can be used for the DSEC analysis, or the RPKM values or the FPKM values that are mentioned on the screen. Now, the RPKM values are reads per kilobase of transcripts per million mapped reads, and the FPKM values are fragments per kilobase of transcripts per million mapped reads. It is important to understand the difference, because the data that you acquire can be in both these formats, and it's important that you understand these formats to differentiate at the end of your study. Now, to understand after this process, the fourth process is of the post processing. The post processing involves four major processes in general, and these include the four steps that are included in the post processing are, first of all, removal of all the genomic elements that are without expression. So mainly it includes removal of the elements that are showing us no expression values. The second step is the quantile normalization and the other normalization procedures that takes place. The third one is machine learning approaches for exploratory analysis like PC and factor regression analysis. And the last and the final step in the whole pipeline is the biological interpretation of the biological interpretation of the results that you just received from the exploratory analysis. Now, quantile normalization is something that is very important in this step, and it is a technique of mapping the original values to the corresponding quantile of the standard distribution that is present. Now, this before this, the process of PCA is also present. The process of PCA is an exploratory analysis which compresses the expression data from the thousands of genes into a single dot on the graph. Now, one dot per sample is being analyzed, so hence it gives us a very macroscopic view of what we are studying. Now, what we need to understand that in a PCA plot, the genes with the largest variation between the samples will have the most influence on the principal components that are present. So to understand this, what we understood is that the genes that are much more highly expressed in one condition or the group than another condition will have a higher degree of influence on the principal components. So this is what we understand by PCA analysis and quantum normalization. Now, why we have to do the normalization process is because that there are differences in the data that arise. Now, these differences can stem from various changes that happen in the experimental conditions or the measurement values, but these are impossible to control. So that's why we have to understand that we'll have to perform normalization in order to reduce and remove these variations. Now, the next step that happens to happen in this process, this was the last step, and finally we then need to understand what actually is prostate cancer and why we are studying it. So as you can see in the slide, it is prostate cancer is as an age-related disease or a disorder, which is very lethal in case of aged males. I mean, most of the time, major impact in the primary age group, the risk of prostate cancer increase multi-folds is after the age of 50 years. And the only and the best prevention of prostate cancer is early stage detection, as in any cancer, so that the proper treatment like chemo, radio, or surgical can be given to prevent the metastasis of the cancer. The prostate cancer is the second most conventional cancer and a major cause of death among men worldwide. Now, in this project, we first analyze the different diagnostic tests that are available for the detection of prostate cancer. And then we identify the biomarkers from the TCGA dataset of 498 samples that were differentially expressed. As we can see in the next slide, this brings us to a research question, and that is that what are the prevalent genes in prostate cancer that are related to age and that are overexpressed at a certain age? The first and the primary objective of our research and the study was this only. The second thing that I wanted to understand is that what are the other factors like expression values, like race, ethnicity, Gleason score, PCA values that affect the metastasis of the prostate cancer or the PSA values of the prostate cancer. As you can see on the screen right now, the clinical data that is present, the metadata that we had included the age, ID of the patient, the Gleason score, the PSA value before the operation was performed, the difference in the PCA that we measured, there was presence of race, there was presence of ethnicity, which could help us understand this disease in a much better way and do its analysis in different forms. Now, the methodology that we performed was, first of all, we selected the data sets. Then we performed the exploratory analysis that I explained in the earlier slides. And then the differential expression analysis was performed. And finally, we uh, interpreted the results using the results that we got in DSEC analysis. So first of all, we have to understand that we took the data from the Firebrowse data cohort. The prostate cancer cohort was taken. We collected the clinical data and the RSM normalized values that were present. And the total samples were 498 prostate cancer samples and 51 normal prostate samples were taken. The first thing that we performed was an exploratory analysis. That was the PCA analysis. The PCA analysis thus performed, it helped us to understand if there were any outliers present in the data. And as you can see on the screen, that this was the pipeline that was followed, and this pipeline was taken from the TBioInfo platform that was provided to us by Pine Biotech. Now, this was a result that we preliminarily got from the result. This was just a test result that was conducted on 25 to 30 samples, I believe. And as you can see, yes, we can see some outliers present on the screen, but we were hoping to find more of them. And this was the final PCA analysis that we did on the whole sample. And the result, as you all can see, was a little bit inconclusive. But yes, I mean, this was just the first step or the primary step, and we had much more analysis to go. All right. So after that exploratory analysis, we performed the DSEC analysis. Now, DSEC analysis was also performed on the T-Bioinfo platform. Majorly, the DSEC analysis was performed uh, when the data is non-normalized. That means that when you have the read count values, then only we can perform the DSEC analysis. So depending upon the data type, you can choose the method. There are EdgeR method, there's TSEC2, there's DSEC analysis that are present on the T-Bioinfo platform. Mainly, we perform the DSEC analysis to get the volcano plot, to get the enrichment and GSA plots from the data that we had. Now, after performing the DSEC analysis on the platform, we got this data for this plot first. This is the volcano plot, and this is the visual representation of the differentially expressed genes that are present. So as you can see on your screens right now, the x-axis represents the log two-fold value, and the y-axis it represents the p-adjusted value of the data. Now, the p-adjusted value was taken as less than 0.05%, that is the significant value, and the log two-fold change was taken about 1.5 to minus 1.5. Now, the red dots on the plot represent the significant genes. The blue dots represent the non-significant genes. And the genes that are marked in, or the genes that are highlighted, they are the most significant genes. Now, on the left side of the x-axis, it represents the upregulated genes, the positive fold chain values in the group B samples that we took. And the right side of the x-axis represents the down-regulated genes or the negative fold chain values of group B. For this data, we first of all divided our data set into two major cohorts, two major groups. That was, first of all, we took from age 40 to 60, that was the group A, and then from 60 to 80 was group B. And then we did this analysis. In the next analysis, as you can see, this is the gene ontology analysis. It it also produces the gene set enrichment analysis that gave us all the genes in the set that were differentially expressed or not. Now, It aggregates the percent genes across with the gene set. Therefore, it makes it possible to detect the situations where all the genes in a predefined set change in small but a coordinated way, unlike the over-representation analysis that is also present in the TBioInfo platform. Now, to perform this GSE analysis, we first of all, as you can see in the result, we understood and got there was suppressed pathways that were present. There were activated pathways that were also present, and this is the result that we got. So now, coming further, we understood that in the previous studies that were done by Pavel and Porzowski, that were previous researchers. They reviewed a paper and they reviewed all the biomarkers tests that were present, and it was a very comprehensive study that we use as a basis for our studies. They also mentioned the serum-based biomarkers, the PSA test, the PHI test, the 4K score. They also mentioned the urine-based biomarkers like ProGenSA, Select MDX, and finally they also reviewed the tissue-based biomarkers that were available in the market, like the Conform MDX and the Conform MDX and Select MDX. Finally, they also reviewed one more biomarker test, that was the TMPR, SS2, and ERG gene fusion. And this is something that we were really interested in because, as you can see in the next slide, this is what our preliminary findings was. After understanding the volcano plots, these are the upregulated and the downregulated genes that we got. And in the end, you can see that we got an upregulated gene, that was TMPR SS9 gene. Now this gene belongs to the same family of the TMPR SS2 gene that is used as a biomarker. Now the problem was that this was a very less selective test in a sense. Hence, it is required that we further analyze it and understand that if this test can be used with some other test to make it a novel biomarker for the study of prostate cancer. And what, as you can see in the conclusion as well, that these are all the genes that we found, the upregulated, the downregulated, and the GSE analysis gave us the pathways that were affected by these genes. And as you can see that we had found the activated pathways like structural constituent of ribosomes and ribosomal subunits. And we also found the suppressed ones, separate pathways as well, such as serotonin uptake and prostate gland epithelium morphogenesis, etc. To tell you all further directions of what this research needs to be, that we will be further doing studies on TMPR SS9 gene to understand if it can be used with as a fusion with some other biomarker as well to be a standalone test for the detection of prostate cancer. Right now, it cannot be used because it has very low sensitivity. And this is what the future of this study holds, that we would like to study this and all the other metadata or the clinical data available to make sure that we can come up with a novel biomarker. The next thing that we would like to study is the analysis of castrate resistant prostate cancer. And this is that is a cancer, that is one variety of prostate cancer that is very a huge menace in the prostate cancer metastasis, because it is very difficult to cure and treat. And together, as I said, we hope to reach a better level of clinical diagnosis and an early detection for prostate cancer patients. And we hope that our studies could be useful for them, for the clinicians to devise new methods of finding novel biomarkers. So this was our research, and thank you everyone for hearing this so patiently. And thank you. That was my presentation.